My next guest says she's dealt with a lifetime of dysfunction and denial, and she's also had her share of just horrific experiences, including the death of 2 brothers and the murder of her father by another brother. But she says balance, perspective, and even a sense of humor helped her cope. Theresa has written this book. It's called Disequilibrium and the Multi-faceted Crystal. Theresa joins us this morning as part of our book author series. And I have to tell you, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your story.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Difficult story to write. Why?
Yes,
Why did you write it?
This book answers the question of how I was able to handle the murder of my father. And one of the answers to that question is that I used family dysfunction as a means to become stronger and not an excuse to be weak. And I wrote this book for others who have done the same.
So it really was about you putting everything out there on paper and saying, this is my story, this is my life, and this is what I want you to take away from what I've gone through.
Right.
You know, you say that what you went through early in your life kind of affected everything else that happened for you later on in life. Can you explain that to us?
Yes. My ex-husband tested and challenged my marriage through the aftermath of an affair, abandonment, and major illnesses. And I believe I accepted all of his odd behavior and deceptions because of the family legacy of denial.
Monday, August 6th, 2007, you were at work and you got a phone call.
I received a phone call from my parents' neighbor, and he told me that my mother was at his house and that I needed to come there as soon as I could. And as I drove to his house, I thought of all these bizarre possibilities that typically people don't think about. And of course, one of them is that my father had died, but how had he died? Natural causes, even possibly murder.
You actually thought about that on the drive?
I did, and the odd part is murder, but yet who might have committed that murder, or even possibly murder-suicide. So I thought about all these bizarre things, and when I did arrive at the house, my mother told me that my brother had shot my father. And I looked to my parents' neighbor to confirm that it was true and not one of her delusions, and they nodded as I was backing up to brace for the impact. And then she told me that, you know, how it happened. And of course, I didn't want to believe it, but yet I needed to hear it because it was the truth and I needed to face it.
So you were dealing with that, with the fact that your brother shot your father, and one of the things you just mentioned was your mother's delusions. Your mother had mental issues as well.
Yes, she did.
And so that contributed to a lot of what you went through in your life. It just seems like you had such a dark, not just dark chapter, but dark chapters,
exactly.
Plural. How did you overcome all of this and make it to the other side?
I learned early on to balance physical, mental, and emotional states to maintain stability. I also keep things in perspective and view them from different angles so that I can get a complete picture of reality. Then I analyze that reality to get to the true aspect of it, even if that truth conflicts with what I hope to be the truth.
You know, one of the parts of the book that I have to tell you I found interesting is that, you know, you mentioned humor to help you cope, and I think a lot of people would think there's nothing humorous about what this lady went through, because you also traveled around the country following one of your favorite players in Major League Baseball, Brad Ausmus. Tell me how that helped you through some really dark times.
During the last year of my marriage, I discovered baseball, and I loved the ballpark atmosphere. And it was one of the ways that I was able to escape the heartbreak at home, was to go to the ballpark. And while I was learning the game, I realized that Brad Ausmus, who was the Detroit catcher at that time, has a calming presence on the field, and that was something that I lacked in my personal life. So whenever I needed to escape from whatever everyday nightmare that I was experiencing, I would travel to different ballparks to watch him play.
What do you hope telling your story accomplishes?
I suggest people read Disequilibrium for its entertainment factor, because despite its dark subject matter, there are lighthearted and amusing parts of it which will stimulate emotions on many levels. And then I suggest people reread it to pick up on the turning points and coping skills. I've been taken off balance in so many different ways, yet I managed to stay strong. And of course, when things got the darkest, I went to a ballpark. So I suggest people find their own personal equivalent to a ballpark to escape to when things get too dark.
Well, I have to tell you, just such a brave lady to sit here and tell us your sometimes heartbreaking story this morning. And thank you so much for sharing how you came through on the other side. I'm certain this will help many of our viewers out there who may be dealing with their own dark times. So thank you so much, Theresa.
Thank you for having me.
And again, the book is called Disequilibrium and the Multi-faceted Crystal Ball. For more information on Theresa or the book, please visit her website, tflirksanecdotalist.com.